stock section. I took the Can-Am Motorsports UTV through this morning with Bailey Cole. He took me for a little cruise. It's going to be a fast course as the classes get bigger. Again, this is the 4600 Spider Track stock class. John Schaefer running his Savvy built Jeep. He's making his way through. I'm going to say the stock guys will be around that 2-minute mark, maybe two and a half. But the big boys will be right in that minute mark, I believe. And it's surprisingly, those UTVs, those Can-Ams will be smoking through there similar times to the 4400 cars, I would bet. So here comes John Schaefer across the finish line. We'll send out Daniel May Applegate any moment. Gear Monkey Racing. So far, so good for today's qualifying for the four-wheel parts teardown in Tennessee at the AOP Off-Road Park. Adventure Off-Road Park is a great facility. 600 acres of awesomeness. Do we have any times yet? So I'm getting everything lined out through my PCI Race Radio. Looks like John Schaefer's on the pole for the 4600 Spider Track stock class with a 151. Donnie Callenbach with a 236. So John Schaefer sub 2 minutes. Time to beat right now is 151. Looks like Daniel May Applegate's making his way through the course. Again, a huge shout out to Hammer King Productions for bringing this live show out in the middle of nowhere. There's a little bit of cell service, but to be able to bring you this live action is absolutely incredible. Dan, Travis, Chris, and the gang, good job, guys. So I see some rigid lights coming through the woods. It's a hot day. It's mid-90s. It's humid. There's been a chance of rain all weekend, but so far, so good. Everybody I've talked to hopes it stays dry, except for the Rufus gang. They're doing their rain dance. Daniel May Applegate will be getting a time for him momentarily, but he just finishes his qualifier. Off the line, last but not least, is Tyler Haggard. Haggard. And this is his first time racing with us, so he gets the first race on us. So we'll get a time for Daniel May Applegate with a 2:11. So that puts him comfortably in second position. Out on course, Tyler is running around in his Jeep. And then we'll kick off the 4900 Can-Am Motorsports UTV class. And we'll be kicking it off with a Can-Am, starting out the heat. We've got 4 cars in the 4600 Spider Track stock class. We have 15 Can-Am UTVs in the 4900 Can-Am UTV class. We've got 8 in the 4500 Yukon Gear and Axle modified class. We've got 14 in the 4800 Brannick Motorsports Legends class, and we have 28 in the 4400 Unlimited Nitto class. So there's Tyler on screen, making his way through that 3/4 of a mile loop. There's lots of loose, big boulders, lots of tight trees. This morning there was a tree that was extremely tight for the big guys, but they ran it enough and knocked. This tree was about 1 foot in diameter, and it got hit enough. It's out of the way now. So these guys will be flying through it. So far, so good for John Schaefer with a 151 sitting on the pole. Here comes Tyler Haygard. We'll get a time for him momentarily. So off the line first in his Can-Am is Jamie McCoy. This guy is fast. So we'll see what kind of time he can throw down. Tyler Haygard just threw down a 154. So 3 seconds off of John Schaefer, but John Schaefer unofficially sitting on that pole. So it's 151 John Schaefer, 154 Tyler Haygard in his first race. Then it's 211 for Daniel May Applegate, 236 for Donnie Callenbach. So pretty close racing for all these guys. But on course now is Jamie McCoy. I'm curious to see how fast these UTVs will go. So if we got a 151 out of a stock class, these UTVs will be just over 1 minute. As he comes through, he was flying. So we'll get a time for Jamie McCoy here momentarily, but it's going to be a quick one. I may be wrong on my minute mark earlier today. So Jamie McCoy with a time of 59:348. So we're already sub 1 minute. So I think Dave Cole's on to something with that 45-second mark. So Jamie McCoy, time to beat, 59:348. Out on course now, number 20, Travis Zollinger with Zollinger Racing. Great to see him. He races a lot of everything. He's a huge part of this sport, racing with us, racing in the desert. He's racing all the time with CRP. So Travis Zollinger and his Can-Am. He's been a national champion, if I'm not mistaken, with us before. He's fresh off a pretty good run at the Silver State 300. So number 20, Travis Zollinger out on course. But already a sub 1 minute with Jamie McCoy. What a smoking fast run. But Travis, I think, is going to give him a run for his money. As I see him coming out of the woods, so we'll get a time for him here in just a second. As Travis crosses the line as we speak, that ZRP Can-Am really smoking through the woods. So we got a time for Travis Zollinger, a 1:18.664 so 18 seconds off the leader. Off the line just now that took off was the 1:25. That's Malcolm McKenzie, part of the Rufus Racing guys. So still on top of the box is Jamie McCoy. Thank you, everybody here on site and back at home, for tuning in to the Four Wheel Parts Teardown in Tennessee. This is qualifying for tomorrow's big race. It'll be racing all day long. We got some 170s that are going to kick off in the morning right around 8 o'clock. Then the UTVs will be taking off around 9 o'clock. So Malcolm McKenzie with a 1:17.402, so bumps out Travis Zollinger by 1 second. So Jamie McCoy with that healthy run with a 59.348 still out front. Just off the line is Scott Raymer, and I believe he's racing Ross Pilgreen's old machine. I could be mistaken, but it looked very similar. So Scott Raymer out on court. We've got our great drone shot right there. There's Scott. He's part of the Fuel Works team with Tim Hooper, I believe. Scott Raymer making his way through that wood section. So you first pop into the woods, you take a hard right, and then you wiggle through left, right, and then take another right up a long hill. Take another right, kind of dips and dives through some rock sections, down a small ledge, and then come on out. So Scott Raymer, the 49.34 Fuel Works UTV. We'll get a time on him very shortly. So a time of 1:08 for Scott Raymer, so that puts him comfortably in second position. But off the line right now is John Rance. That's Sean Rance Sr.'s son, so it's great to see him back in a car. He's co-drive multiple times. He's drove a few times, but he's back into the UTV racing, or stepping into the UTV racing. John Rance, number 4931, out on course. So John Rance in the woods as we speak. We've got a couple cameras in there, but the woods are so thick we're having a little bit of technical difficulties, but there it comes tuned in just perfect. And there's that little ledge section I was talking to you. It's not a huge drop, but it's just enough that you shouldn't jump down it. I was talking to Bailey Cole and Lauren Healy earlier, and I think Bailey's going to launch it, and Lauren's like, there's no way I'm launching anything in the woods. Way too many trees down here. John Rance making his way through the woods section. We've already broken the 1 minute mark by Jamie McCoy with a 59.348, fastest time of the day so far. My guess was right at that minute mark, and it's already been beaten. So the big boys are going to be pushing. So John Rance should be coming out anytime. There I see him. We'll be getting a time for John Rance very soon. Up next is the 49.29, John Rodzinski. So 151 for John Rance. He was a little off pace, but he could just be saving the car. This is his first race in that machine. So John Rodzinski getting ready to head out next in the 49.29 machine. This is the 4900 Can-Am Motorsports UTV class. John's running the Nitto tires. That car is loud, and he takes off like a rocket. He's going to be hunting down Jamie McCoy. Again, everybody, thank you for tuning in. Hit the social media. Share it all on Ultra4Racing.com. Hit the Facebook, King of the Hammers Facebook. Hashtag it up on the Ultra4 Racing Instagram. This is the four-wheel parts teardown in Tennessee. 2020's been a little bit of a rough start, but we did get in King of the Hammers this year. But this is our first race back, and everybody's pumped to be here. We're here at the AOP Off-Road Park. John's in the woods as we speak. The 49.29 making a pretty decent run through her. He took off like a rocket. We'll see what kind of time he puts in. Heading down that little drop-off section. This morning I went out on it early when we were building it and walked it, and it was pretty loose and lots of rocks everywhere, but it is burned in this afternoon. Everybody went out pre-running, so it's going to get faster and faster. So we should have a time for John Rodzinski here shortly. Should be a pretty good time. So John Rodzinski with a time of 1:19, so that puts him, I believe, in 4th position. So pretty good run. The number 722 just took off. That's Carson Atkins. I believe he was running a Yamaha. So Carson Atkins out on course. There's a great shot of him in the woods sections. These camera guys had to hike in. It's hot, it's humid, it's sticky out, but everybody's here to have a great time here for the 4-Wheel Parts Teardown in Tennessee. Carson Atkins out in the woods, about halfway done with his run. There's JT Taylor, our race director, out in the middle of the course, making sure everything's going smooth. So we'll have a time for Carson here momentarily. Up next is going to be Cole Clark, number 24, part of Jimmy's Army. So a time for Carson Atkins is a 1:01.312, puts him comfortably in that 2nd position. 2 seconds off of Jamie McCoy, though. Cole Clark just barrels through here. It gets me all dusty. The dust is thick. We were scared of muddy mess, but today that is not the case. So Cole Clark should be coming into screen any moment. Number 24 out of Colorado, part of Jimmy's Army. He gets a little sideways, has to back up a little bit, comes in a little too hot. This guy pushes hard all the time. So Cole Clark had to take that backup position. Cost him 3 or 4 seconds, but he still got a great run. He'll be top 5, top 10. Cole Clark coming down the little rock drop. Cole making his way through the section. He's over halfway through. Takes another bump, it looks like. He sure does. He may be having some steering issues. He's clipped 2 trees. This is just qualifying.
Not sure they'll have it this year. We'll see. Yeah. If they do, it might be down, toned down pretty hard. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how top 10. Most of my real job.
So Cole Clark should be coming through here any minute.
We're just like this. It's our hobby. We consider it a hobby. My biggest customer.
Not sure what happened, but Cole Clark bounced off a couple trees, but he's still moving good, so maybe he was just pushing a little hard. Looks like all 4 tires are aimed in the correct direction for Cole, but he kissed a couple trees. This course is tight. Up next is going to be Brandon Anderson.
We started building something similar to that in we can't hold 80,000 people, we can hold.
So a time for Cole Clark, 1:44. So having to back up a few times definitely cost him. So that'll put him back towards the back of the pack. But on course right now is Brandon Anderson, number 225. So Brandon Anderson should be coming into screen any moment. There he comes into screen. We'll have our camera guys pick him up and follow him around the course. What a great course our race director set up, JT Taylor himself. Walked through it. It's similar to last year, but he added a couple more little loopties through. I wasn't able to make it out last year, but it was a mud fest, they said. This year, so far, so good, but there's a chance of rain tonight. There's a chance of rain tomorrow, but I'm doing my anti-rain dance, unlike the Rufus crowd. They brought their 43 stickies hoping for a mud bog, but I think they're the only ones that are excited about it. So Brandon Anderson still out running around.
You work for a media company though, right? I have my own photography and video business. Oh, okay. But I'm actually like building contractor this year.
So Brandon Anderson with a time of 1:28.546 out on course that just took off. I believe was 06 Philip Poe. Got confirmation through my PCI race radio. Philip Poe, number 06 on course. Up next will be the 502 James Cantrell. He just got that rig put together last night. He's always cutting it down to the wire, but he's going to put that Mad Ram 11 UTV up on the podium, he says. So Philip Poe, number 06, and that Can-Am really ripping. That's going to be a smoking time.
Yeah, we host races all around this area. We're pretty much the same thing as Ultra4, but we're just in the East Coast. Where are you based out of? Hershey, PA. Okay.
So a smoking time of 1:02.531 for Philip Poe. So that should put him in third position. Carson Atkins has a 1:01, so third spot right now is Philip Poe. That's a great spot. Up next, number 502, James Cantrell, driving the Mad Ram 11 UTV, number 502. He took off like a rocket. We'll see how he can throw this together. Up next will be Scott Lesage, number 4932. From Southern California. It was like I said, it took him 50 hours to get over here. He had tons of issues. Had a blown motor. So there's James Cantrell on screen, number 502. Running the Mad Ram 11 UTV. He's been racing with us for a long time, and he puts a beating on that machine. You can see he's pushing hard. Like I said, that course is pretty burned in, but there are the few loose rock sections that could get you. There's a lot of getches on the race course. There's stumps, there's rocks, there's trees. I think tomorrow we're going to see a lot of action in the progressive pits. James Cantrell coming out all over the throttle. This could be a new fast time. It's going to be close. Can Jamie McCoy with his 59.348? So he was just off barely. James Cantrell with a 1:03. So he's top 5. Scott Lesage just took off. Out of Southern California, almost. I believe he's San Diego area. He's very close to the Mexico border. Scott Lesage in the 4932. That is an NA machine. He is not running a turbo. He's raced King of the Hammers all over. He's raced down at the Nora. Scott Lesage is a trooper. He had a couple buddies meet him out here, but he took the drive out this way all by himself. So Scott Lesage is one dedicated individual. But just like the Ultra4 way, when in doubt, figure it out. So Scott should be coming out here very soon. Up next out of Springfield, Missouri, Justin Barth in the 417. He's pulling double duty. He'll be running the 4800 Brannick Motorsports Legends class as well. So we'll get a time for Scott Lesage. So Scott Lesage running that non-turbo machine with a respectable time of 106.2. Scott Lesage with a great run. Still man to beat, Jamie McCoy with that 59.348. On course is Justin Barth, number 417. He's also going to be racing his brand new debuted at King of the Hammers Jimmy's chassis later on today and tomorrow also. Justin's making his way through, and he's kind of playing the smart with this deal because he can run the 4900 Can-Am Motorsports class and then step into the 4800 Brannick Motorsports Legends class. So I'm watching Justin Barth on the screen, and I've got none other but Chip McLaughlin over here. How's it going, buddy?
Doing great. I'm ready to be racing again.
It's been too long. And you did not bring your normal car, right? You brought the Old Faithful backup.
I did. I brought the solid axle car, and we're going to have some surprises. And we're going to go out and have some fun, and we're doing the rain dance. We want it to rain.
The old Rufus guys are always here to party. You got the 43 SX stickies, right? You're ready to throw them on and sling some mud if it comes down.
Yes, sir. We're going to run them whether it rains or not. We got the Tennessee cut on them, and it's I think they're tired to run out here, so we don't get any flats. It might be a little slower in some spots, but we'll make it up in others. We'll see if it works.
But hey, Chip happens. Thanks, Chip. We'll get a time for Justin Barth momentarily. Up next is going to be the 4918. Matthew McIntosh. So Justin Barth.
I live on the border. My house is like half a mile from the border. Yeah, it's right there somewhere. Maybe racing there.
So Justin Barth with a 132. Matthew McIntosh out on course, the 4918. Should be picking him up on screen. So I've got Jamie McCoy right now. So I called earlier today the fastest time of the day is going to be right around 1 minute. In your Can-Am, you've already beaten that with a 59.348. How good did that run feel?
Yeah, it was really nice. I made a couple mistakes back there where the guy's setting, camera guy back there. But other than that, G-Force has been tuning on it a little bit today, and he's got her spot on.
So how excited are you to be so far starting up front?
Well, that's always the game plan. You qualify good, so you race good, and we do our work at home, and we come out swinging every race.
I mean, you were new last year, if I'm not mistaken, correct? And you came out swinging that race, and you've raced all over, not only just Ultra4, but all over everywhere. And that Can-Am, you put it to work, and it shows. So you're sitting in that pole position. We'll see what happens. What's your take on today's drive compared to tomorrow's possibility of rain?
Well, you got to have a couple different tires in your arsenal, and I do. The MRTs has got, I got a couple of them stacked up ready to go for what happens. But I've run it here both ways. I've run it wet and dry. Maybe not quite this dry, but I hope we don't, because it looks like they say we're only going to get 4 laps, so you can scoot through there pretty good if it's dry 4 laps.
Well, it's going to be a good time. So Matthew McIntosh with a 144. Looks like. So we just started the 4800 Brannick Motorsports Legends class. It looks like Jeremy Jones just took off. 48.37 in that Trent Fab machine. So the Doc himself, Jeremy Jones, 48.37 on course. Up next is going to be the 48.77, Robert Graham. Jeremy Jones won the national race 2 years ago. This guy's always a contender. Jeremy Jones, I walked the course with him this morning pretty early. We had about a dozen of us just kind of checking it out, and it was interesting seeing each driver kind of pick their own line and give their own reason why this top, bottom, hook this tree, Missed that rock. It was pretty cool to see 3 or 4 different drivers picking their way through there and explaining it. So it looks like top of the box unofficially is going to be Mr. Jamie McCoy with that 59.348 in his Can-Am for the 4900 Can-Am Motorsports UTV class. Again, that is unofficial. And that is G-Force 1, 2, and 3 qualified. Unofficially, Jeremy Jones making some dust. He came through there absolutely hauling. That is going to be a fast time.
That is pretty much about 45 minutes north of Nashville. It's just across, right across the border on
So Jeremy Jones with a 1:23.635. So 24 seconds off at Jamie McCoy. This is a pretty tight technical qualifier, so it's going to be interesting. Is it going to be a Can-Am that can be the fastest vehicle of the day? There's a lot of cars yet to come, including Mr. Casey Gilbert, the 618. But on course right now is Robert Graham. He should be coming into screen any moment. Casey Gilbert up next is always a force to be reckoned with. He's been the national championship multiple times in this 4800 Brannick Motorsports Legends class, and there's talk of this car running the 4800 and the 4400 class with Casey Ryan behind the wheel for the 4400. And we'll see if Casey will step up next year the 4400 class. There's talks of that also. But right now we're waiting on Robert Graham. This is a super fun track. I took a full lap earlier today. There's Graham, the 4877. Believe that he's in a Jimmy's chassis. He should be coming out any minute, and there he pokes out. Looks like he's got the Ford Bronco front grille. Graham, we'll get a time on him, but getting ready to take off with a vision. It's number 618, Casey Gilbert. Looks like we have a new fast guy for the 4800 Brannick Motorsports Legends class, Robert Graham with a 1:20.810, so 3 seconds faster Jeremy Jones, but Casey Gilbert with that brand new built Texas Speed horsepower machine takes off like a rocket. He loves starting out front because he always plays the points game, and if you get first in your class in qualifying, I believe you get 10 points extra. So he's playing that qualifying point game. Casey Gilbert's going for the fastest time of the day in his class. Casey Gilbert, a Nitto athlete, has been for quite a few years. Up next will be Richard White. But on screen right now is Casey Gilbert. And he comes out there just all over the throttle. So Casey Gilbert, that's going to be the fastest time in this class, I'm sure of it. We'll get a time here shortly. Fastest qualifier of the day in the 4800 Brannick Motorsports Legends class is Mr. Casey Gilbert with a 1:03.374. So 17 seconds over Robert Graham. Casey Gilbert was moving in his Miller Motorsports chassis. Off the line is number 4878, Richard White. He should be coming into focus any moment. So Richard White on screen coming down this little drop section in his Jimmy's chassis. Running his Pro Comp wrap. Up next is one of the main Team Indiana guys, 890, Jonathan Terhune. Will be taking off as soon as White crosses the finish line. But so far it is Casey Gilbert with a 103.374 unofficially. Well, I can see some rigid lights peeking through the forest. We'll get a time on Richard White here shortly and get ready to send out Mr. Jonathan Terhune. Flips down the visor, wiggles the steering wheel left and right, getting ready to hit the skinny pedal. So Richard White with a 128.640 puts him in the right around that 4th position as we speak. Coming up to the line is number 72, our first female of the day, Kimberly Sparrow. Her husband, Hunter Sparrow, will be racing the 4,400 class. You can see how dusty it is. Tomorrow on race day, if we don't get rain, it's going to be a dusty, dusty day. So that shows you how important today's qualifying actually is. So Jonathan Terhune, probably about halfway done with his qualifying run. He's been racing with us ever since I can remember. A huge part of Team Indiana. Lots of support from all those guys. So again, a huge shout out to Team Indiana. Stan Haynes with Brannick Motorsports for sponsoring this 4,800 Brannick Motorsports Legends class. They're just a great group of guys. We've been racing with them before Ultra4 was a thing back in the XRRA days. There's just a little bit of wind. You can see the Ford and the Ford Bronco flags just barely blowing. We've got Nitto, Optima, Monster, HCR, 4-wheel parts, RCV, AMSOIL. So we'll get a time on Terhune and take off our first female competitor of the day, 872, Kimberly Sparrow. Bouncing all over the limiter as she takes off. Waiting on the confirmation through my PCI race radio for a time for Terhune, as Kimberly Sparrow takes off for the 4-wheel parts teardown in Tennessee qualifier here at the Adventure Off-Road Park, here just outside of South Pittsburgh, Tennessee, just off the Alabama border. So Jonathan Terhune with a 123.052. So that puts him in 2nd or 3rd position. But still the fastest time today in the 4,800 Brannick Motorsports Legends class is Casey Gilbert with a 103. So he's beaten everybody by over 17 seconds. On course is Kimberly Sparrow. Up next in Mucci, number 4807, Cade Rod, Nitto athlete. He debuted this car at King of the Hammers. He may have raced one race in it last year, but this guy's fast. Cade Rod is always out front chasing around with Casey Gilbert. So we'll get a time for Kimberly Sparrow as Cade Rod gets ready to take the green flag. So for her first time in this car in quite a while, Kimberly Sparrow with a 127, so what a great run for her as Cade Rod takes off. Randy Rod just ran by me getting ready to check his son out. I'm sure Cotton's back at home tuned in. Mama Bear's checking out on her kid. So Terhune just had a good run. Kimberly Sparrow just had a good run, and so far so good. JT Taylor set up such a great course that so far there's been zero carnage, zero rollovers. But time will tell. We got a lot of racing yet today. Remember to stay tuned in all afternoon. We do have Power Hour towards the end of our qualifying. We'll have our 4 Kings and then a few other secret guys we're going to throw in with them to give you guys some action down to the wire. I can't see Cade, but I can hear him. He is all over the throttle as he comes out. 4807. Cade Rod and his Jimmy's chassis. We'll get a time on him momentarily. And it's going to be a good one. What did I say about Cade Rod running right up there with Casey Gilbert? Cade Rod with a 1:04.557, 1 second off of Casey Gilbert's 1:03. So it's 1 second splits Casey Gilbert and Cade Rod. The rest of the field is 17 seconds. So Cade Rod following Casey Gilbert off the line. We'll see if that time holds, but boy howdy, we got some good racing on our hands right now. Looks like number 8100, Michael DeVore. He's been racing with us for a while. He just took the green flag. And then I believe behind Mike DeVore is going to be Brian Trimp. I think this is his first time racing. He's a street racer, so it'll be interesting to see how he plays out. We had a good chat with him last night. Brian Trimp got the first round on us. This season, if you show up and race and this is your first time ever racing with Ultra4, we're going to cover your entry fee. You know, it's kind of like we give you the first little bit and then you get hooked and you can't quit coming back. But that was a great idea by Dave Cole and Ryan Thomas, our founding father and the new president of Ultra4. They've made a great team. They've been having lots of talks, and they're coming up with some great ideas. So a huge shout out to Dave Cole and Ryan Thomas for pulling off another great weekend of racing. So this should be number 8100, Michael DeVore, coming through here. Brian Trimp, looks like that's a Jimmy's chassis. So Brian Trimp, first time on an Ultra4 case course, number 896, Brian Trimp out on course. Great shot of our aerial drone. The one and only Dan Campbell, the head of Hammer King Productions, flying that unit today. Kind of a jack of all trades, running around making sure all the tech's good on the cameras. That's one busy guy when it comes down to the wire. So a huge shout out to Dan and the whole Hammer King production team. Should be getting a time for Mike DeVore here shortly. So out on course for his first time, Brian Trimp on screen running through there. Having a pretty smooth run so far. Again, he's from the road racing scene. Figured he'd switch it up and do a little off-road. He's excited, nervous, but he's here to have fun. What a great day of qualifying here in AOP Off-Road Park for the four-wheel parts teardown in Tennessee. We're starting under the Nitto Arch. Ford's been a huge help this year. Can-Am sponsored the UTV class once again. Monster's always on site. Optima batteries, four-wheel parts, and Progressive Insurance is the official insurance of Ultra4. So off the line, 48.59. So Brian Trimp, for his first time qualifying for us, is a 1:31. So on course right now is Evan Sherman, the 48.59. Still waiting on a time for Mike DeVore. I apologize for that, but Brian Trimp, for his first time racing with us, is a 1:31.783. But on screen is Evan Sherman in that 48.59. I believe that's a fairly new built Jimmy's chassis. There's a lot of Jimmys in this car. Yep, and confirmed through my PCI race radio. Evan Sherman on course, 48.59. Boy, what a great afternoon of racing we've had thus far for the 4-wheel parts qualifier here at the Adventure Off-Road Park just outside of South Pittsburgh, Tennessee. So we have Evan Sherman across the line. We're getting ready to ship out 48.96. That's going to be Buddy Carlton. And another Jimmy's chassis. And behind him is going to be Chris May getting ready to take off. He just stepped down to the 4800 class. So the 4800 Brannick Motorsports Legends class are retired 4400 cars. So a time for Evan Sherman is 1:32.731. And off the line next is going to be Buddy Carlton. So Buddy Carlton hot on course. And sorry, I interrupted myself. So the 4800 Brannick Motorsports Legends class rules are, a lot of these are the retired 4400 cars, just like Chris May. So they have to have a single shock per corner, unlike the 4400 cars can have 2 shocks per corner. So they have to have a single shock per corner, 37-inch DOT tire. But other than that, it's a 4400 car. So just like Casey Gilbert, he's going to put 40-inch tires on his Legends car and race in the Unlimited class. So the only 2 rules that I can think of off the top of my head is 37-inch DOT tires and a single shock per corner. And Chris May has those badass King shocks on there with the IBP. Great technology coming out of King Shock. So we'll see what kind of run Chris May can do. He's had a lot of success here recently. But out on course, on screen, is Buddy Carlton in his Jimmy's chassis. So far, he's running a very smooth race until I say that. He has a complete stop. But Buddy Carlton still running good. But out front, it's the time to be in the 4800 Brannick Motorsports Legends class is Casey Gilbert, closely followed by Cade Rod. So Buddy Carlton's across the line. We'll get a time for him shortly. So getting ready to take that flag, another part of Team Indiana, number 725, Chris May. So a respectful run for Buddy Carlton with a 122.144. But it's still Casey Gilbert and Cade Rod running the show in the 4800 Brannick Motorsports Legends class. But hot on the throttles, number 725, Chris May. He's been racing with us since the beginning, if I'm not mistaken. Always a class act, here to help anybody. Chris May's a good dude. He's here to stay, here to help, here to have a good time. And if you haven't had some of his chicken wings, you've missed out. Following him is going to be 417 Justin Barth. He just completed his 4900 Can-Am Motorsports UTV run and is going to hop in his Jimmy's chassis and run the 4800 Brannick Motorsports Legends class. So they're on screen is number 725 with that shiny green Mays Motorsports, Chris May. He's coming down to that little rock drop section. You can see the green Rigid Industry lights on the front. So Chris has a pretty good time. Is he going to give Casey and Cade a run for their money? It looks like he's going to come through with those King shocks all off the ground. So another King shock machine, number 417, Justin Barth. So for his first run in the 4800 Brannick Motorsports Legends class, Chris May sitting in 3rd position with a 109.025. So great run by Chris May. But just taking the green flag, Justin Barth out of Springfield, Missouri. He debuted this Jimmy's chassis at King of the Hammers this year. Doesn't have a whole lot of seat time in it, but he's been racing UTVs with us for a long time. Looks like we're getting ready to line up the 4500 Yukon gear and axle modified class. Up first is, I believe, going to be Dwayne Garrettson and his number 26 Bronco Jimmy's chassis. Getting all lined up. Got Jesse Oliver. See John Grounds. I see Mr. Sean Rance Sr. lined up in another Bronco. Dan Fresh, he's been racing a lot lately. Part of Team Savvy. But right now on screen is Justin Barth. All 4 Nitto tires look like they're holding up strong. We got the Nitto tape out there on course, keeping everybody directed. So Justin Barth taking his time but making a smooth run, saving the car for tomorrow's big race for the 4-wheel parts teardown in Tennessee. Get a time on Justin Barth before we send out Dwayne Garrettson. So a respectable time, 1:31 for Justin Barth. So unofficially, it's going to be Casey Gilbert on the pole, followed closely by Cade Rod, and then I think it's Chris May, unofficially 1, 2, 3. So now we'll switch over to the 4500 Yukon gear and axle modified class. Up first is going to be 26, Dwayne Garrettson in his Ford Bronco. Bouncing the limiter just a little bit. Dwayne Garrettson, hot on course. So we've got 8 guys running the 4500 Yukon gear and axle modified class. As Dwayne Garrettson should be coming into the screen as he does in his Ford Bronco Jimmy's chassis. And again, can't give Ford enough love for stepping into this year's 2020 Nitto King of the Hammers and bringing such a strong presence with their Bronco. So just again, huge shout out to Ford and the Bronco. It's going to be cool to see those out racing at the 2021 King of the Hammers. So again, please support who supports the sport. We have Nitto, Can-Am, Ford, Monster, Optima, 4-Wheel Parts, Progressive, Warren Winch, King Shocks, Amsoil, Griffin, Holley EFI, Titan Fuel Tanks, Boxo Tools, Yukon Gear and Axle for this class as we speak, the Fab School, PCI Race Radios, Laser Nut, and Steal It. Without those guys, we would not be racing today. So again, please support who supports the sport as Dwayne Garrettson just comes screaming out of the woods, showing off that horsepower. Lots of King Shocks. Hot off the line is Jesse Oliver in the 4517. Just got a time for Dwayne Garrettson in the 4500 Yukon Gear and Axle modified class with a 1:23.009. I think that's going to be a pretty good time for this class. But we still have Dan Fresh yet to come. Jesse Oliver's on course. We have Sean Rance. We have Dave Schneider, Cody St. Clair, and John Grounds. But Jesse Oliver on screen as we speak. He's been racing with us quite a while. Had some really good luck. Last year he was on the podium in Davis, Oklahoma at Clash at the Crossbars. He's sponsored by Yukon in the 4500 Yukon Gear and Axle class. So great to see those guys supporting their own class. Dan Fresh is running the Savvy machine that's formerly driven by Jesse Combs. Cool to see that car still out here racing with us. So a huge shout out to the whole Savvy crowd. Gerald Lee does such a great effort with every race he goes into. It's Jesse Oliver coming out of the woods section hot and heavy. So Dan Fresh loaded the stall up, hits the gas, and out on course. So new fast time for the 4,500 Yukon Gear and Axle class is Jesse Oliver by 1 second with a 1:22.276. So it's Jesse Oliver and then Dwayne Garrettson, Dan Fresh out on course. Dan Fresh driving the number 88. That thing's been around for a very long time. It's won this class multiple times at the Nitto King of the Hammers race during the four-wheel parts Everyman Challenge. Coming through there a little hot, but carries the momentum. Dan Fresh races with us here at Ultra4. Races down in Baja. Races just got done racing the Silver State 300 in a 6100 Spec Truck class. Now he's racing pavement in the Savvy Gladiator doing their drifts or whatever. So Dan Fresh loves being behind the wheel. So we'll get a time on the 88 Dan Fresh. Up next is the 4531 Sean Rance Sr. So Dan Fresh just blew these guys out by over about 15 seconds. Dan Fresh with a 1:08.250. So that would put, so we're going to mix up the 4,500 and the 4,800. They'll still be scored separately, but they'll be started however they qualify today in tomorrow's race. So far right now, Dan Fresh in the 4,500 Yukon Gear and Axle class will be starting in that third position if it holds out. So a 1:08 and a 4,500 car, great run in the 88 by Dan Fresh in that Savvy built machine. So we just sent out Sean Rance Sr. in that Bronco. He's been running the Bronco before the Broncos were a big thing at Ultra4. So great job, Sean Rance Sr. 4531, hot on course. Behind him is going to be John Grounds in the 4570 Daystar powered machine. So Sean Rance Sr. out on course, on screen, running his Bronco, looking good. Had a good talk with him. He's always just all smiles. This guy, you know, he's getting up there in age, but he still loves to have a good time. So great to see him out here racing with us for a very long time, and he plans on racing for quite a while. So good on Sean Rance Sr. Putting the Ford Bronco through its paces. We got two cameras out on course, plus our start-finish camera, and then our live drone as well for the four-wheel parts qualifier here at the Teardown in Tennessee. Sean Rance having a little bit of issues there, not sure quite what happened. As you can see, a few of those rocks are getting kicked out in the middle, so those could be some tire killers if you come through there a little hot. So again, thank you everybody here on site and back at home tuning in, ultra4racing.com/live. This is qualifying for the four-wheel parts Teardown in Tennessee. We'll get a time for Sean Rance Sr. here shortly, but up next is John Grounds. John Grounds is building a new Miller Motorsports chassis as we speak. He'll be qualifying the 4,500 car and the 4,400 car because his car's not quite built yet, but he's trying to qualify for Hammers next year. So he can qualify for both races and race both races in the same car. So it'll be interesting to see how he can keep the car together for two races, just like Casey Gilbert. Sean Rance Sr. with a time of 1:52.738. So still the fastest guy in the 4,500 class is Dan Fresh. And this is the 4,500 Yukon Gear and Axle modified class. We're roughly halfway through qualifying today. It's hot, a little bit of wind, a lot of dust. but more fun than you can shake a stick at. So John Grounds out on course. We hope to have him in camera here very shortly. And I heard a little rumor that Dave Schneider had some issues out on course, so his car may be broken, so he may be skipping qualifying. So tough break for Dave Schneider. He'll be starting from the back of the pack. He still has a few minutes. We'll see what happens. But last but not least is going to be Cody St. Clair, the 4561. They've been racing with us quite a while. Father and son team that just love to make it to every race they can. There's John Grounds. As Cody St. Clair loads up the car heavy. Builds up a little bit of heat in that converter, but he's all gas right now. Cody St. Clair getting ready to tear up the course. We'll get a time for John Grounds as we speak. So 131.727 for John Grounds. Remember, he's trying to save that via the Daystar machine for both classes. He'll be qualifying and racing in the 4500 and the 4400 class. And an old timer that keeps on showing up. 4414 Jason Shipman in his solid axle Jimmy's machine is back racing with him. I love his shark fin on the back. He's been racing with us off and on for a long time. Glad to see him back. So he will be our first qualifier for the 4400 Nitto Unlimited class. But on screen, on course is Cody St. Clair, running a very strong qualifier thus far today. This is a roughly 3/4 of a mile loop just outside of town. So we'll get a time for Cody St. Clair here momentarily. And then we'll be shipping out the 4400 guys. I did not give that guy enough credit. Cody St. Clair just bumped into second place in class with a 110.609. Great job, Cody St. Clair. I'm sure Anthony's hooting and hollering back in the pits as we speak. So unofficially, it's 108.250 for Dan Fresh, 110.609 for Cody St. Clair, and then it's going to be Jesse Oliver with a 122, unofficially wrapping up the top three in the 4500 Yukon Gear and Axle Modified class. But remember, we are going to integrate those guys with the 4800 Brannick Motorsports class. So Dan Fresh will be starting up front with Casey Gilbert, Cade Rod, and now Cody St. Clair. So on course, on screen is Jason Shipman. He originally comes from the desert, but he started racing with us in the Ultra4 scene quite a few years back. Has this car and an IFS machine. He races down in Mexico from time to time. Took a little break off with Ultra4, but great to see him back here. I believe he's out of Missouri. Jason Shipman running his solid axle Jimmy's chassis. This is the first class that you can run IFS other than the 4900 Can-Am Motorsports UTV class, obviously. But this is unlimited racing. The 4400 Nitto Unlimited class is hot and heavy. We do have a power hour later on this afternoon, but Jason Shipman should have a pretty good run under his belt. So 121.626 for Jason Shipman, a very respectable run. Next off the line, I believe, is going to be Casey Ryan driving Casey Gilbert's machine. So do two Caseys make a right? We're about to find out. But Casey Ryan out on course in Casey Gilbert's Miller Motorsports chassis. I believe he's still running his 37-inch tires. I don't think they had enough time to throw on the 40s, so he's going to qualify on the 37s, and I assume they'll switch him over to 40s for their race Saturday afternoon. But on course is Casey Ryan in Casey Gilbert's Miller Motorsports chassis. Casey Gilbert fresh off his unofficial pole for the 4800 Legends class. So Casey Gilbert is the fastest big car of the day, but still time to beat in his Can-Am is Jamie McCoy. With a 59.348 is Jamie McCoy's fastest time of the day to beat. But on course, on screen is Casey Ryan in Gilbert's machine. It just ran about 15-20 minutes ago, so it hadn't even had time to cool down. Shocks are still hot, but he's still blasting through. So Casey Ryan with a pretty respectful run, if I'm not mistaken. We'll get a time for him very shortly. This is his first time to drive. Hunter Sparrow off the line next. In the number 72 with his wife Kimberly in the passenger seat. He rode shotgun with her in her car earlier today. So an awesome run out of Casey Ryan with a 1:09.324 fastest time for the 4400 class so far. That time will get beat, but for his first time really actually driving, great job by Casey Ryan in that Miller Motorsports chassis. 1:09. So that is what, 7 seconds off of Casey Gilbert? So that car is solid. Thank you everybody back home and here on site for staying tuned in. Ultra4racing.com/live. This is qualifying for the 4-Wheel Parts Teardown in Tennessee. Get on Facebook, hit the King of the Hammer share button. Get on Instagram, ultra4racing.com. Hashtag it up. But Hunter Sparrow all over the throttle coming out in that number 72 machine. Get a time through my PCI Race Radio momentarily for Hunter Sparrow. So less than a half a second behind Casey Ryan is Hunter Sparrow with a 1:09.785. So unofficially, Casey Ryan bumps him by a half a second. 1:09.324 still standing. So again, while we have a little lull in the action, I'm going to give some sponsors some love. We have Nitto, Can-Am, Ford, Monster, Optima, 4-Wheel Parts, Progressive, King Shocks, Amsoil, Griffin, Holly EFI, Titan Fuel Tanks, Boxo Tools, Yukon Gear, Fab School, PCI Race Radios, LaserNut, Steal It, Off the Grid Clothing, ARB, MBRP Exhaust, Rigid Lighting, VP Race Fuels fresh to our scene, and they are going to stick with us this whole entire season. So they'll have race fuel on site at every race. RCV, HCR, Brannick, PRP, Speed Straps, Factor 55, Action Sports Canopies, Squatch Box, last but not least, Savvy Off-Road. So again, thank you for those guys for supporting who supports the sport. Off the line now, number 46, the Happy Pappy, Rusty Blyler. So on course, about to be on screen, the Happy Pappy and his Miller Motorsports chassis, Rusty Blyler. This guy's a lot of fun to watch. That is our current King's dad. They've been racing Line Mountain up in Pennsylvania before Josh could even walk hardly. So the racing is absolutely in their blood. But Big B Motorsports, Nitto athlete Rusty Blyler on course in that Miller Motorsports chassis, really throwing down a great run. If you remember at Nationals last year, he gave us one heck of a show. Doing a little pirouette over the K-rail and back on course. Rusty Blyler, Mr. Big B himself, is a busy guy. He hunts all over the world, races all over the country here with Ultra 4, and still runs a very successful business. So Rusty Blyler with a smoking time. Could that be the fastest 4,400 time of the day? We are about to find out. So Rusty Blyler with a 109.030. I'm going to verify that because if that is, that's the fastest time of the day. So confirmed through my PCI race radios, Rusty Blyler, new fastest time of the day, 109.030. So bumping it out. So the top three guys, Rusty Blyler, 109.030. Casey Ryan, 109.324. Hunter Sparrow, 109.785. And just taking the line for his first race ever is Brian Reed in the 416 Brave Motorsports built machine. Savvy Off-Road has prepped it for him. And there's Brian Reed on screen, on course, in that Brave Motorsports machine, running pretty smooth. Great to see him racing with us for his very first time. So Brian Reed with a very smooth run. Savvy Prep machine. Up next is Chris Paiva. That is one of Dave Cole's old machines, if I'm not mistaken. So I'll get a time for Brian Reed here shortly. But on course, Chris Paiva. This is the 4400 Nitto Unlimited class. So for his first time racing with us ever, Brian Reed just throws down a 107.496, sitting on the pole position for now. But how cool is that? First time racing with us on the pole position. But on course, on screen is Chris Paiva. Up next is going to be Kevin Porterfield in that beautifully built, wide open design Adam Woodley built machine. So Chris Paiva with a pretty smooth run, but again, a huge shout out. Brian Reed, first race ever, 107.496. Chris Paiva just crosses the line. We have got action. It's hard to keep up with. I'm doing my best. I hope you guys are having fun at home or here in the pits. I'm having a blast. It's hot, it's dusty, but I wouldn't want to be anywhere else. So Kevin Porterfield takes the green flag out on course. Well, too bad for Brian Reed. His 107 didn't last long. Chris Paiva just bumps him out by 2 seconds with a 105.706 sitting in that pole position. And again, I believe that's Dave Cole's old machine, so it's still kicking. Chris Paiva, 105.706. So Kevin Porterfield out on course, on screen in that IFS wide open machine. So I may be mistaken. My sheet said Chris Paiva, but it may be Tad Toker in the driver's seat. Not sure. We'll get that cleared up later. I apologize, but they are sitting in that 105. So Kevin Porterfield just crosses the line. So we'll get a time on Porterfield here shortly. Kevin Porterfield with a 111.135. Brian McVeigh on course, number 270, on course and on screen. I missed him off the line, but Brian McVeigh, number 270, hot on course. Up next is going to be Tim Hooper, number 1505, with Fuelworks powered machine. Brian McVeigh has a very smooth run going. And we got a heavy hitter right here in the middle of the qualifier. Behind Hooper is going to be Paul Horschel. Brian McVeigh still smoking through there, number 270. We'll get a time for him shortly, but that's going to be a great run. The dust is getting thick. It's floating all through the air, sticking to every sticky body out here. Everybody's doing their best to keep their distance. So a huge shout out to everybody here. So less than a tenth of a second. In second place is Brian McVeigh with a 105.767. Out on course is Tim Hooper, Mr. Fuelworks himself. If you haven't seen his gas jugs, you ought to check them out. They're stackable. They pour quick. They meet the EPA. So check out Fuelworks. Mr. Tim Hooper's running his Trent Fab machine through the woods for the four-wheel parts teardown in Tennessee. And a fan favorite up next, Nitto athlete Paul Horschel, one of the masterminds behind these builds. He builds all his own cars. The guy's an absolute genius when it comes to fabrication. He's a very quiet guy, extremely intelligent, fun to talk to, puts down the helmet, absolute animal behind the wheel. Paul Horschel is a fan favorite. Be extremely exciting to see his run. But on course right now, getting ready to finish up, Tim Hooper. All over the throttle, all the way over the finish line. And that Trent Fab machine, Tim Hooper will have a pretty good time if I'm not mistaken. So a great run by Tim Hooper with a 106, but hot on course, Paul Horschel, Nitto athlete. He's racing his King of the Hammers desert car. It's pretty wide. He said if it rains overnight or tomorrow, he will run his pinhole car that's a little narrower. It's his pre-runner. But today qualifying, he's in his big, high horsepower machine. Paul Horschel on screen. He puts a lot of seat time. He puts a lot of time at the shop. This guy is absolutely dedicated to our sport. He has not become a king yet, but he has always been up front. As you can see how wide he is, he just bumps the rear tire off that tree pretty hard. He did that in Oklahoma and really goofed up that car. So that's got to be in the back of his mind on how wide he is, on how tight this course is. But Paul Horschel, a front runner for sure. Sporting almost 1,000 horsepower, just launches through that little rock section there at the finish line. Rocks went a-flying. That's going to be a smoking time. Could it be a new fast time? New fastest time of the day. Time to beat Paul Horschel, 102.866. Mr. Paul Horschel. And how far off is that as Casey Gilbert? Casey Gilbert was a 103, so beats out Casey by 102. So that shows you how close these guys are. Another legend, Mr. Waylon Campbell himself getting ready to take off. But on course, I missed it, is Kevin Taylor. He's a new racer with us. It's kind of a cross between an Ultra4 and a bouncer. It's confused, but it's a Porsche clip. Mr. 911 himself, Kevin Taylor on course and on screen in the bouncer / Ultra4 rig. Had a great chat with him. It's a great looking machine. He's ran the Renegade and the Pro Rocks, but glad to see him out here racing with us here in Ultra4. Waylon debuted number 3 AZ at King of the Hammers this year, was leading the race until he blew a head gasket, if I'm not mistaken. And after the race, I talked to him. How bummed are you? He said, I'm not bummed at all. this thing's a rocket. Once I get my motor lined out, this thing's going to be untouchable. Mr. Waylon Campbell getting ready to take the green flag. Waylon Campbell hot on course. Fiancée Susan at home with River watching, I'm sure. Great run for Kevin Taylor in the Porsche 911 with a 1:13.889. But Waylon Campbell, number 3 AZ out of Gilbert, Arizona, son of the one and only Shannon Campbell, one of our 3-time kings. Waylon Campbell will be a king in his day, mark my word. Waylon Campbell on screen, on course, single seat Campbell chassis. Like I said, they debuted it they were trying to debut it at SEMA, but just didn't quite make it. So they debuted it at King of the Hammers. And Waylon's got a great run, but can he bump out Paul Horschel's time of 102? It's going to be close. Waylon showing off that horsepower just like Horschel did. So Paul Horschel, fastest time of the day in his class, 102.866. One second off, less than a second off. Waylon Campbell, 103.370, sitting in that second position. So a half a second spreads Horschel and Waylon Campbell. So hot on course, Mr. Disco Derek West in Inferno. He debuted that Jimmy's chassis at the 2020 Nitto King of the Hammers as well. He's been a Nitto athlete ever since Nitto got in the game. Derek West he's finished probably more top 10s than anybody in Ultra4. Derek West always a top contender, and he's one of my top picks for a tight woods race. So Derek West out on course for his qualifier. We'll see what he can do with that number 20 Jimmy's chassis. Nitto athlete, Disco Derek West on course. I'm sure Ashley's back at home watching, very excited, little nervous. He's running pretty hard. You see him hit that big rock. That rock's going to get out of the way when the fast guys start running. This course is extremely burned in, but they keep knocking out some of those big rocks. Up next is going to be number 8, Mr. Stan Haynes himself. Stan the man, Mr. Brannick Motorsports, Stan Haynes. Disco Derek West had a little bit of pop out of the engine over the finish line. Not sure what that's about, but they are dusting out some of our camera crew. We'll get a time for Derek West here shortly. So what did I just say? Derek West is a top runner, and he is your top runner. Derek West by 1 second. He's got a 101.961. Derek West, fastest guy in the 4400 class for now. We still have Power Hour to come up. That's going to be a hard time to beat. Derek West, 101.961. But on course, about to come in stream, is Stan the Man Haynes. He is the sponsor of our 4800 Brannick Motorsports class. Stan and his son Brandon run an extremely awesome machine shop out of Indiana. So if you need anything, axles, sway bars, they've got springs. They can, if you can dream it, they can make it. Call Stan and Brandon at Brannick Motorsports. Then up next is going to be number 24, Zandy Willems, the head honcho behind Rufus Racing in Nightmare. So on course, on screen is Stan Haynes, Brannick Motorsports. He's in a wide open design chassis. He's been racing with us before Ultra4 was a thing. Glad to see Stan and his whole team Indiana out here at every single race they make it to. Always a great time. Always a great sport. Here to help anybody. Stan is a fan favorite. Team Indiana was last year's Sportsmanship of the Year. The whole team led by Stan Haynes. So Stan may have a little bit of hiccup out in the woods. I don't see him coming out. He was 3/4 of the way through when he popped off camera. Unless I did miss something, there's cars all over the course. I see Zandy Willems, Chip McLaughlin, Jeff McCullough with All South. Haven't seen him in a little while. Jonathan Terhune, John Mullen, his brand new Dragon. He's got about 1 hour of seat time as of yesterday. And no, I think that's all he's got because he fought front axle issues last night and this morning. So great to see John Mull able to qualify his brand new Jimmy's Dragon. Still waiting for Stan Haynes. Oh, there he comes, still moving. So not sure if he caught a tree or a rock. That'll cost him a lot of time, but the car still looks like it's in great shape. Stan Haynes a little behind schedule, but Zandy Willems getting ready to take off. So Zandy Willems out on course, number 24 in Nightmares. So Stan Haynes had a little bit of hiccup in the woods, so he's a 236. He'll start in the back of the pack, but hey, the car still looks good. But on course, Mr. Rufus Racing himself with EcoStaff LLC, number 24, Nightmare on course, on screen, running a really smooth run. That's a Tribe 16 chassis. The whole Rufus team runs all Tribe machines. Tribe does a lot of the prep as well with Chip. But Zandy Willems pushing it all the way to the end. So that's going to be a pretty good run for a solid axle. But it is a solid axle on the pole with Derek West as of now, with Paul Horschel and Waylon Campbell hot on his heels. So we'll get a time on Zandy here shortly. So Chip McLaughlin hot on course in his old straight axle machine that Doug Jackson used to race. I hope you guys remember him, one of the older guys. Doug Jackson's always a loved member of our family in Donkey. Wow, wow, wow. Zandy Willems just throws a 102.467. So that just pops out Paul Horschel. Zandy Willems pushes himself into second position. He'll be stoked with that. So congrats to Zandy Willems, Team Rufus Racing. Second place as of now. On course is Chip McLaughlin. Chip happens. Up next is the number 408, Chris Hardesty. So still on the pole is Derek West with a 101.967. Behind him, Zandy Willems with a 102.467. And Chip's going to have a good run too. This course is getting faster and faster. So a great run by Chip McLaughlin with a 112.090. That'll put him comfortably mid-pack. But still time to beat is Mr. Derek West with a 101.967. So I've got Jonathan Terhune over here. You've already raced. What's your car doing in the lineup?
So Nate Jess from the Talon Tank, popped a motor a couple weekends ago at Dirty Turtle, and he's getting rebuilt, but it didn't make it to this race. So put the 40s on and gonna let him race my car in 4400.
Well, thank you, Jonathan. That's awesome. That's what friends are for. Team Indiana really coming through. So we'll have Nate Jesse and Jonathan Terhun's 890. So the number 408, that's Cody Hardesty, just crossing the finish line. I missed him out on course. I do apologize. And I'm sad I missed that run because Cody Hardesty with a 103.982. So where's that put Waylon? Just behind Waylon Campbell. So great run by Cody Hardesty. And taking off is Jeff McCullough with All South and Bill Bair's old machine. Great to see him. That car takes a beating but keeps on running. Jeff McCullough with All South, number 12, and that Bill Baird Motorsports built machine. And speaking of Bill Baird, you guys do remember him. You cannot. He is actually here to spectate, so it's great to see Bill out here just enjoying himself. He just got a little older and just couldn't quite take the beatings these cars give you. But it's great to see him out here enjoying himself. So Jeff McCullough out on course and on screen. Number 12, Jeff McCullough with All South. A great sight I see. The water truck is here. Jeff McCullough just screaming through Can-Am corner. Up next is going to be Nate Jesse running Jonathan Terhun's machine. I should be getting a time for Jeff McCullough through my PCI race radio as we speak. With a smoking run of 104.005. So that's top 5, at least possibly top 10. But don't forget, we still have Power Hour. So Nate Jesse running the 490 machine because his car's blown up. So he's racing Jonathan Terhun's. Nate Jesse, I think he's number 802, but the car's 490. But he's out there in the Legends car, going to slap some 40s on it and run with the big boys, if it's still together. So again, Team Indiana, really cool stepping up. We just had a great chat with Jonathan Terhun. Another great member of Team Indiana. Well, there isn't a bad member of Team Indiana. So Jeff McCullough just had a smoking run with a 104, but still time to beat. Disco Derek West, 101.961. Second place, I believe, is Paul Horsell with a 102.866. And then there's another 102, isn't there? Yes. So, sorry, Zandy Willems is second with a 102.467. Remember, all this is unofficial until we post on our website later today. But 1, Derek West. 2, Zandy Willems. 3, Paul Horschel. Then it goes to Waylon Campbell. Then Cody Hardesty. Then possibly Jeff McCullough. There are numbers. These guys are fast. So John Mole and his brand new Jimmy's Dragon. It's a single seat, similar, almost identical to Lauren Healy's Red Dragon that now Cody Addington has. This thing's absolutely brand new. It started out at Jimmy's 4x4 and then got shipped to Tribe 16. They finished it out. I crawled over it yesterday when it was still clean. Absolute work of art. But he should be on screen by now, and he is not. So John Mole having issues early. He had about 1 hour of seat time and had some front axle issues. Not sure exactly what happened. They're going to get it sorted out, but it's not going to be perfect for this race. He had to limit some of his travel. But it's, like I said, it's a brand new car with an hour runtime, so what better way to break in a car than to break it in a race? So as we see John Mole on screen, he got moved again. Not sure what his issue was, but number 14, John Mole, getting ready to run. And up next is our current king, Josh Blyler. So far this year with our canceled races, Josh is undefeated. And I believe my top three are going to be Derek West, Eric Miller, and Josh Blyler. Those three could take this home, but you can't count out any of the Kings, any of the Campbells. But those three right there, Blyler, Miller, and West, they love these tight woods, especially if it gets muddy, so it's going to be fun to see. But up next is our current king, Josh Blyler, Big B Motorsports in his Miller Motorsports chassis. This is his new car, built it about a year ago, year and a half now. So John Mole had a little bit of issues out there, but came through hot and heavy. So we'll get a time for him here shortly. I'm seeing Lauren Healy, Shannon Campbell, Bailey Cole, Eric Miller. This is about to kick off Power Hour. It's been a great day of an afternoon of qualifying, and he's off. Josh Blyler, our current king, Nitto athlete. So John Mole had some issues in the woods, so he got a 238. Looks like it's okay, so he'll be starting from the back. But on course, not quite on screen, is our current king, Josh Blyler. But up next is going to be Lauren Healy, a former two-time king of the Hammers winner. He is a monster athlete, a Nitto athlete. He's sponsored by the Fun Haver team, MBRP, Optima Batteries, King Shocks. So he's the poster child for all our great sponsors. Great job, Lauren Healy. Up next, but green, our current king, Josh Blyler. We saw his dad run earlier with a very respectable time of a 109. We'll see if Josh can bump him out or not. And I think Josh just laid down a smoking time. Can he bump out Derek West? We're about to find out. And our current king just smoked the field. Josh Blyler with the 57.931. 4 seconds faster than Derek West. Josh Blyler was absolutely on fire. Speaking about fire, on course is the one and only former two-time king, Lauren Healy. He's got that Ford Bronco with that huge Ford horsepower. He's recently linked up with Vaughn Gittin Jr., and they've got Team Fun Haver. He's brought him over to the Ford side, and he's happy to be there. Lauren Healy's in a Paul Horschel-built single-seat IFS machine. This car's 91 inches wide, if I'm not mistaken. Number 67, Lauren Healy, coming through the little drop-down rock section. He's got a great run ahead of him, but I don't know if he's got enough steam to bump out Josh Blyler. This is Power Hour. Some of our fastest guys in our sport. Lauren Healy's coming out absolutely on fire. That's going to be a fast time. Can he bump out Josh Blyler? Waiting for my time. And then up next is another former three-time king, Shannon Campbell, a legend of the sport. Shannon Campbell is the only three-time king that is here at this race. So on screen is Shannon Campbell, single seat IFS Campbell Enterprise built machine. You can see the Monster M on the side, the Nitto tires all over it. He didn't used to run a spare, but he's started to lately. It helps out in some of these longer races. Shannon Campbell letting that 8-into-1 exhaust eat. So Lauren Healy with a 104.546. That'll put him I'm gonna say top 10 for sure. And then Shannon Campbell just came through with a 103.533. 0.2 of a second behind his son Waylon. So those two are very identical cars, very identical times. Not identical drivers, but father and son, those guys are really running hard. On course right now is number 60. That's gonna be Chad Owens. Out on course in a two-seat solid axle machine. But the two fastest times of the day are Josh Blyler, followed by Derek West, and then Zandy Williams, and Paul Horschel, then Shannon Campbell. It is going to be a stacked field for tomorrow's four-wheel parts teardown in Tennessee. Up next is another female competitor that you can never count out, Mrs. Bailey Campbell, Shannon's daughter. She was leading this year's King of the Hammers for the longest time, had a great run, and broke a stupid water pump pulley. What bad luck was that? So she's got Ryan Miller in the shotgun with her, and she's back for some redemption. So a great run by Chad Owens with a 108.127. That'll be top 15 or so. But Bailey Campbell on course, getting ready to pull up. Another two-time king is Mr. 21, Eric Miller. He's got probably about a year-and-a-half-old son, and they've got another son on the way. His wife Leah is always here in every single race, pregnant or not. So on course, on screen, Monster Nitto athlete Bailey Campbell with Ryan Miller riding shotgun, number 35. She's one of two female competitors, if I'm not mistaken, this weekend. That's a two-seat IFS Campbell Enterprise machine. And that thing in the desert is an absolute monster. It's very good in the woods. I'm not giving it any lack, but that thing eats up the desert. Ryan Miller, long-time part of the Campbell, riding shotgun. Getting ready to send out Eric Miller, former two-time king. So a great run by Bailey Campbell, 109.079. Through the PCI race radio, they were telling me as of Eric Miller was taking off, so that's why I missed Eric going off. But Eric should be coming on screen. There he is, Eric Miller in that Miller Motorsports chassis. He loves the tight woods. He's from Pennsylvania. Nah, he's from up in that way. He loves the tight woods, loves the mud, loves the open desert. Eric Miller is a competitor. Another Nitto athlete. And then up next, getting ready to take off in the Trent Fab IFS machine is Bailey Cole, another Nitto athlete. Eric's going to have a great run. We'll get a time from him very shortly. So 1 second off of Josh Blyler. Eric Miller with a 58.163. So 2 Miller Motorsports chassis on the pole for now, unofficially. And hot on course is Bailey Cole, son of founder Dave Cole, in that Trent Fab 2C IFS machine. And I see a little bit of, that is the former car from Darren Hinkie. That's Lisa. Got a little bit of smoke coming from the left front, but he's still pushing hard. Those Trent Fab machine buggies really take a beating and work extremely well. Bailey was nice enough to take me for a rip around in his Can-Am this morning. We ran the qualifier and the full 6-mile loop. And Bailey has a really distinct eye on picking a line. So we'll get a time from him. So that puts Bailey Cole into third position with a 59.133. Great run by Bailey Cole. And maybe our last competitor off the line, last but certainly not least, Mr. Levi Shirley, Lucky Dog Racing out of Dodge City, Kansas. We've been racing with him since the beginning. He's in a single-seat IFS Campbell chassis. And I've heard a little rumors he may have another car being built. Maybe. But Levi Shirley, new to the Yokohamas this season, they really stepped up. Great to see them helping Levi out. Number 81, another King Shocks athlete, Levi Shirley. I was talking to Bailey earlier. He said this is a track for Levi because he's a little narrower. Great visual out of that car, and he came across that line hot. Levi Shirley with a great run. We'll get a time for him. So Levi Shirley, 51.613. So that puts him in third or fourth position unofficially. So what a great afternoon of qualifying. And we aren't quite done yet. I may see one more. Is that Dave Schneider, Mr. DSI? Remember, he was broke earlier, so he was telling JT, he's like, hey, my car's out on course broke. If I get it back in time, can I still qualify? He said, yes, since you contacted me, if you get it here before qualifying's done. Not quite done, because once we stop, we add 5 minutes to let the few stragglers come. So it's a possibility Dave Schneider will be qualifying in the 4,500 Yukon gear and axle class. So fastest man of the day, period, is our current king, Josh Blyler, unofficially with a 57.931, sitting in that pole position. So great run. So we got Dave Schneider. Looks like he might be going out for his qualifier. And I just saw Mr. Waylon Campbell. You had a great run. I believe you're in top 5. How'd that run feel?
That was good. I bobbled a little bit, but I never qualify all that great. So I'm just happy to be here, and hopefully we can get a win tomorrow.
And this is only your second race in this car. Your first race, you were leading the race at first at the 2020 Nitto King of the Hammers, and you popped an engine, right? And I talked to you after the race. I said, that's a bummer. And you were all smiles saying, I don't care about that motor. This car's a rocket ship. Once I figure the motor out, it's going to be on fire. Do you have this motor figured out?
I hope so. It's running like a champ right now. And, I beat my dad and sister, so that's a good sign.
I love it. You guys always give each other a hard time. But you're also all the Campbell family. You're always here to help everybody. I saw you helping John Mole next to you, working on his IFS machine. You're helping your sister. The whole Campbell family, you're following in your dad's footsteps. So just a huge shout out from me personally. You guys are awesome. Thanks for helping everybody out.
Thank you.
All right, Waylon, go back. Enjoy yourself. It's going to be a long day. Have fun, buddy. Thank you. So out on course is Dave Schneider. Got a little bit of run at it. So I think they stopped him because he started a little early, wasn't quite ready. A little miscommunication on his end. So we stopped him. We'll bring him back, see what happens. So again, thank you everybody back at home tuning in. I believe we go live tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. for the 170 class. It'll be just kind of a light, soft opening. And then at 9 a.m. we'll go live racing for the 4900 Can-Am Motorsports UTV class. And then right around 10 a.m. No, sorry. Between 8 and 9 we'll run the 170s. 9 a.m. we're going to do a track inspection, get everything lined out. 10 a.m. Central, so that means 8 a.m. PST is the Can-Am UTV race, 10 a.m. Roughly 12:30 is the limited races, the 4500 Yukon Gear and Axle class, the 4600 Spider Track Stock class, and the 4800 Brannick Motorsports Legends class. Last but not least, the fastest guys in our sport, roughly 3:30, will kick off the 4400 Nitto Unlimited class. So we'll be live all day long tomorrow racing. It's going to be a long, fun day. The weather is absolutely gorgeous right now. It's hot, it's dusty, but I'm doing my anti-rain dance. There's a good chance of it tomorrow, so we'll see. A little bit of chance overnight, but on my way driving in here yesterday, it was pouring cats and dogs about a half hour away. And these tall hills, mini mountains, whatever you want to call them, kind of split right here at AOP. So we'll see what happens. So Dave got a little antsy and took off a little sooner than we were ready for. So we stopped him out on course, getting ready to send him back out. So that's Dustin Friesen's Trent Fab machine, I believe, the 4571, driven by Dave Schneider. So getting everything lined out on our end, Mr. Dave Schneider, DSI himself, been racing with us for a very long time. He used to own the car that Bailey raced the last couple years, but he's recently sold it. He still has a car, but he's taking out Dustin Friesen's in the 4500 Yukon Gear and Axle class. So let me do a little recap on that class. Time to beat is Dan Fresh with a 108.250. Sitting in that pole position for the 4500 Yukon Gear and Axle modified class. What a great afternoon of qualifying for the four-wheel parts teardown at Tennessee. At the Adventure Off-Road Park, Southern Tennessee, just north of the Alabama border. Dead middle between Nashville, Knoxville, Atlanta, and Birmingham. A lot of the sponsors we could not be out here with today is Nitto, Can-Am, Ford, Monster, Optima, Four Wheel Parts, Progressive Insurance, Warren Winch, King Shocks, Amsoil, Griffin, Holly EFI, Titan Fuel Tanks, Boxo Tools, Yukon Gear and Axle, Fab School, PCI Race Radios, Laser Nut, Steal It, ARB, MBRP, Rigid, VP Racing Fuels, RCV, HCR, Brannick Motorsports, PRP, Speed Straps, Factor 55, Action Canopies, Squatch Box. Last but certainly not least, Savvy Off-Road. So since Dave took off a little sooner than anticipated, we had to reset our loop. So we're getting our timing figured out before we send him out on course. So I've got Brian Reed with me right here. This is his first race with us, and you threw a 107. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah, I mean, we were being a little conservative, to be honest. We wanted to make sure we had a truck for tomorrow. We're making sure we can qualify for Hammers. So we just need to finish tomorrow and we'll be ready for kicking the hammers out in Johnson Valley.
Well, personally, from me and everybody here at Ultra4, thank you for coming and checking us out.
Oh man, it's great. We love to be here. It's awesome to be in the dirt. I love playing in the dirt. It's great. We're just really happy to be here, and I got to thank Brian for giving me this opportunity and giving us this opportunity to race together. We had some choices of where to go, and this was the great place for us to be. This is going to be our home.
Well, excellent. Thanks for being here and have fun. We enjoy it. So out on course and on screen is Mr. DSI himself, Dave Schneider, running that Trent Fab solid axle machine in the 4500 Yukon gear and axle class. So Dave had a little bit of issues earlier on the day, broke his car, missed his qualifying spot, but was able to tell us on race ops that, hey, I'm trying to get my car back together. Can I please qualify? We say yes, as long as you make it before our last guy's done, which was Levi Shirley. He showed up just in the nick of time. So Dave Schneider's got a pretty good run under his belt. See what kind of time he's got. He's got to bump out Dan Fresh with a 108.250. That's going to be a good run. We'll see what kind of run Dave Schneider throws down. We'll get a time through my PCI race radio any minute. So Dave Schneider throws down a 118.257, so 10 seconds behind Fresh. But that puts him, I believe, in third position in class. But remember, we are going to integrate 4,500 and 4,800 in starting positions. So thank you, everybody, for tuning in back at home and here on site, ultra4racing.com/live. We'll be racing live all day long tomorrow. So be sure to tune in. So again, thank you. We'll be live all day tomorrow. Ultra4racing.com/live. We got to give a huge shout out to Nitto, Monster, Ford, the Bronco, King Shocks, MBRP, everybody that made this happen. So unofficially, our fastest guy of the day. Remember, we will try to do the official post here in hopefully about an hour on ultra4racing.com. But the fastest time of the day, our current king, Josh Blyler. And number 2 is going to be Eric Miller. Number 3, Derek West. Remember, these are all unofficial. No, number 3 was Bailey Cole. Sorry, I can't read my own chicken scratch. We got just a lot of numbers on here, but these guys threw it down all day long. So unofficially, it's Blyler 1, Miller 2, and Bailey Cole 3, if I'm not mistaken. We'll get it all sorted out later. Unofficially in the 4,500 Yukon Gear and Axle modified class is Dan Fresh, Cody St. Clair, and then Dave Schneider. In the stock class, we have 4 guys racing with us. And the fastest guy was John Schaefer with a 151 unofficially. Behind him is going to be Tyler Haygard with a 154. Daniel May Applegate third. Donnie Kalenbach in fourth. The 4,800 Brannick Motorsports Legends class. Fastest of the day was Casey Gilbert. And then Cade Rod. And then Chris May, who just stepped into this class, so huge shout out to those guys. Then we had the 4,900 Can-Am Motorsports UTV class, and Jamie McCoy threw down a fast time early of a 59.348. Behind him is going to be Carson Atkins, and then Philip Poe, if I'm not mistaken. Again, all this is unofficial. We'll get it updated on the website and make it official this evening so you guys know where you're starting tonight. So again, thank you everybody back at home here on site tuning in, ultra4racing.com/live. We'll be live all day tomorrow. Make sure to tune in. I'm Miles Hasquist. I'll see you tomorrow.
So, you know, we're about a month into when we first shut down our factories. And in the last 30 days, we started with nothing but ideas to help combat the coronavirus. And now we've grown to multiple efforts that include making ventilators with GE Healthcare at our Rawsonville factory. We're making powered air purifying respirators at our Breland facility near Flat Rock. And we're making surgical masks at our Van Dyke transmission plant. You know, all this is what Ford does. It's in our DNA. If you go back to World War II, you know, we built more than 270,000 Jeeps, and we built B-24 Liberator bombers at our Ypsilanti plant. When there's a time of need for the U.S., we pitch in and we immediately move to help. It's what makes me so proud to work for Ford Motor Company. It's been really amazing, and it's been something that's been an honor to actually help make a difference as quickly as possible here in the fight against the coronavirus.
Steven Rogers.
Johnson Valley, California for the King of the Hammers, the Nitto Ultra4 Championship.
We have the best off-road drivers in the world lined up for the start of this race. First place is a Poison Chalice at the moment.
At this point, it still is anyone's race.
Could this be the first Queen of the Hammers 2020 Nitto King of the Hammers?
Pulled off the race course. He is underneath the back of that rig, and Cameron Steele is right behind her. It looks like they are definitely down and out at this point. This race is a nasty race.
And we're struggling to find cars still running.
Bailey's car is a water pump. The question would be, if they're going to be able to get one taken out to them. Oh, and here we're watching Shannon.
Kept on charging, and we dropped her pump off, and now she's moving again.
Motoring, he is out of the race. Definitely something somewhere has gone wrong with Jason
We're
Shearer.
still looking at Lauren, definitely still stopped.
Working hard to get back into this race.
Just terrible news for Marcos Gomez, but in true Hammers fashion, he's still pushing through. We've seen multiple people cross the line on free wheels. Out of nowhere, Eric Miller shows up to the party. There's no way to call this race at this point in time. Josh Blyner, the 2020 Nitto King of the Hammers champion.